Quazi here, and in today's video, I'm going to share with you one of the greatest modern discoveries, which correlates with a very, very ancient truth, the parallel universe theory. Now, even though quantum theory and the many worlds theory was a recent postulation, this truth has actually been in existence for thousands of years, most notably in the ancient Greek era and via the Buddha himself around 5,000 years before the arrival of Christ. Now, in the 5th century BC, there were two main schools of thought in the Greek culture, basically. One of the atomists and the other of the Stoics. Now, the atomists believed that the universe was formed through the random collisions of atoms that gave birth to our universe, basically, and many other parallel universes as well. Now, the Stoics believed that our universe was the only universe that was created by an indestructible creator, God. Now, what's interesting is that in Buddha's teachings, there are multiple mentions of many realms, especially in one sutra called the Avatamsaka Sutra. Now, Albert Einstein said it himself when he said, if there's any religion that could cope with modern scientific needs, it would be Buddhism. So obviously there must be some truth to the many worlds theory of so many of these cultures mentioning it. So by the end of this video, not only am I going to share with you how parallel universes work, but also why the particular reality you're experiencing right now is a direct result of the identity that you hold to be true, and how to shift your identity to experience your desired reality via the use of your conscious intention. To understand better, let's begin with the many worlds theory, which was founded by Hugh Everett III in the 1950s to explain certain paradoxes that arose in the field of quantum physics. The many worlds theory pretty much suggests that anytime an event or a decision occurs, the universe basically splits itself into multiple copies, each copy representing a particular outcome. For example, before you make a potential investment decision, there is a reality in which that investment decision is successful and you become a billionaire, but there's also another potential reality where it's not so successful and it robs you of all your wealth, and there's many other possible combinations and permutations of realities that can be manifested. Now, in quantum physics, before an event is observed, it's said to exist in a superposition of quantum states. In the example that I just mentioned of you making an investment decision, before you make it, both and multiple possibilities exist. After you make it, one possibility is experienced and observed, and it is said that the wave function collapses. Now the question becomes, how can we influence the reality that we most would like to observe? That's where identity shifting comes into play, which is exactly what I'm going to share with you throughout this video. Okay, so now let's begin with a deeper understanding of identity shifting, what it is, why it's so important, and how it shapes this particular sector of reality that you're experiencing. Okay? Let's begin with an understanding of the all space. If you've been watching my videos up until now, you probably know what I'm talking about, but if you don't, I'm going to explain it again. In the particular sector of reality we're experiencing, this is just one sector of many possible manifestations, many possible combinations that could have been manifested. And it's shaped by your karmic proclivity, basically things that are out of your control, which is not something you need to worry about. You know, Bill Gates once said, if you were born poor, it's not your fault, but if you die poor, it is your fault. So anything that happened in our previous lives and in the past, we can't really change. We can only choose what comes next. We can only choose the thoughts, actions, decisions, intentions that we make today, which will unfold tomorrow. So remember that the present is continually becoming past. There is no point worrying about what's happened in the past and trying to change it. That is the most futile thing you can do. The best thing you can do is learn and use the lessons to shape tomorrow. So this particular reality is being manifested in accordance with our thoughts, actions, beliefs, emotions that we feel, identity, worldview that we hold to be true. So let's get a deeper understanding of what's shaping this particular reality, why you're experiencing this current reality and why you're not experiencing a certain other reality. At the most surface level, what it appears is that our actions that we take are influencing what we are experiencing. So if I do X, I get Y result. So this is why most of mankind is focused on taking action. We've seen so many of our clients just focused on taking action in their businesses, and they try different business strategies, and what they see is they kind of get results, but the results never stick. They find a way to sabotage it. We have some clients who make a lot of money before they join us, and then some things happen, they don't know why, they've sabotaged, they've started to doubt themselves, and these internal thoughts and feelings started to lead and bleed out into their actions, right? So these actions that we take have a role in deciding our reality, but the action is a consequence of something else, okay? Please understand this. The action is being caused by the predominant thoughts and feelings that we have. Thoughts plus feeling. So what you think and what you feel on a day-to-day basis for an unconscious being, we are continually reacting to the fears that we have and the desires that we have, right? So there's certain things within us that can drive us to action. Please understand why it's called emotion. It's called emotion because it's energy in motion. It has the power to move us to action. So if we feel anxious about something, then it'll make us do something to get rid of the anxiety, right? Most of mankind is driven by fear, because when most people want to start up a business, for example, they have a lot of pain in their current situation. They don't want to be stuck and chained to a 9-to-5, going to a cubicle, listening to some orders. They don't want to do that. They feel trapped. And when the pain gets strong enough, it drives us into action, right? So that's when we go out and do something to get away from the pain. But the reason why 99% of people never are able to get away from their fears and their pains is because when we keep focusing on the pains and fears, we get more pains and fears, right? So instead, people don't understand how to shift that focus from pain and fear to desire and what I want to create. And because of that, they create more of these situations. Just like the clients that I mentioned to you who grow in their businesses, but then they don't see consistent results because they keep focusing on the wrong things. But there is something that shapes what we think and feel on a daily basis. Can you guess what that is? It's the beliefs that we hold to be true. Now, there's two categories of beliefs. There's beliefs that we have about ourselves, and there's beliefs that we have about the world around us. Okay? So we're going to categorize this into self and world. Now, the thought is just a lighter form of belief. But a belief is a little bit stronger, right? It's a little more sticky. It's something that we've been conditioned with as we grow up. We tend to question it less. So when you really believe something, you're almost operating from that belief. When the belief gets a little bit stronger, guess what it becomes? It becomes a conviction. A conviction is something we will never question, right? This is a model of reality. If someone were to question it, we would just be confused. We never question these convictions that we hold to be true. So please understand this. Thought is the lowest level of a belief. Belief is the mid-level of a belief, and conviction is the strongest form of belief that we will never question. So initially, it begins with a thought. An idea comes to you. Someone says something. Maybe someone says, oh, your handwriting is terrible. And then you start to think about it and you feel anxious about it and you feel insecure about it. When a thought and a feeling come together, it becomes a belief. When it becomes a belief, then you kind of believe it, but then when you start to see more proof of it because you get what you're looking for, then it eventually becomes a conviction. Then you really believe your handwriting is bad. You really believe you're not good at making money. You really believe that you're destined to be lonely and you're not good enough and you're not confident enough to do what you want. You're not confident enough to ask for that raise or be a business owner, right? So all of these always begin with the thought. Most people can't intercept the thought. So these convictions are what's shaping everything, right? It's shaping the belief that we have, the thoughts that we think, the feelings that we feel, and ultimately the actions that we take. Within the subsect of conviction, the two most important parts are the worldview that we hold and the identity that we have. At the core level, our identity is what shapes even our worldview. So the lowest level of all that's shaping everything that we're experiencing in our lives right now is the identity. How we're viewing ourselves in relationship to our worlds. We're getting to something. So when you have a certain belief about yourself, it causes you to believe the world in a certain way. If you believe, hey, I'm not an entrepreneur, I just don't think entrepreneurially. If I'm not an entrepreneur, you're more likely to believe that now is not the right time to start up a business. And if you believe that, then all of the thoughts and feelings will be in that same line, which will influence the actions that you take. So if you don't believe that you are a good entrepreneur or you're, worthy of being a successful entrepreneur, when you try to become an entrepreneur, guess what's going to happen? You're going to do it half-heartedly. That's exactly it. And because of that, your reality will be shaped a certain way. So this particular sector of reality that we're experiencing right now is a direct reflection of the core most level that influences our reality, which is the identity. Once you learn to shift your identity consciously and choose who you want to be at a certain stage in your life, then you can become that self. Then your reality starts to manifest as well. So this particular sector of reality that's being manifested is a result of our thoughts and our feelings, but our thoughts and feelings are influenced by who we see ourselves as. Okay? To give you an example of this, when I was a kid, when I was around 15 years old, I was bullied a lot in school, and I thought that's all I was worthy of. I wasn't good looking, I wasn't attractive, I wasn't wealthy or anything, and so I'm worthy of getting bullied. And so I would take the bullying without standing up for myself. But one day the pain got strong enough, and I said, fuck it, I'm gonna change. I'm gonna, put on some muscle. And that was my first entry into personal development. I started going to the gym, and what's interesting is when I was taking the action of going to the gym and improving myself, I started to believe that I'm becoming better and better every single day. And as a result of that, I started thinking different thoughts. And as a result of that, when the thoughts got stronger and I started to see more conviction of me getting stronger, I started to believe it. I am getting better. I am becoming more attractive. And then I started to see myself, slowly I started to see myself differently. And then finally, I used to have really crooked teeth when I was a kid, and I was super insecure about that. So my mom finally got me braces, and when my teeth straightened and I took off my braces, I literally became a different person overnight. This is why when people go through an appearance change, they literally shift their identity and they experience a new reality. A book where I first learned this from, and when I first realized this, was Psycho-Cybernetics, where he talks about how the author Maxwell Maltz, he talks about how he was a cosmetic surgeon, and when he gives people a cosmetic, like a completely different face, they start to make more money. They start to do things they never thought was possible. It's because every single day we're wearing a mask. You're wearing a mask that you think, gets you certain things in your reality, and therefore you act in accordance with that. We're all actors in a movie. What role do you want to play? The reason why you're not successful, why you don't have the things that you want, is because you're not the hero of your movie. You're looking up to some other fucking hero. That's the problem, right? You have to start to view yourself as the hero of your own story. You have to see yourself as powerful. You have to see yourself as the one who's capable. And if you can't do that right now, that's exactly what I'm going to share with you with this exercise, okay? For now, I want you to understand how this reality is shaped. There's many different schools of thought in this. The most prevalent one that I can remember is there are 3 different paradigms of reality creation. So the lowest paradigm of reality creation is the having. When you're just focused on having something, you focus on, oh, what can I have? What can I have? And this is where most people become apathetic, because they're like, oh, I can't have it. There's no point in even trying, because even if I were to try, there's no point doing it because I won't have it. The level above that is doing. When you do something to have something. And the highest level is being. Who we are being influences the actions that we take, influences the results that we have. Having, doing, being. And this is what this is. We're focusing on having the reality to doing something to get it, and then being. All of this is centered around being. The thoughts, the feelings, the beliefs, and the convictions that we hold to be true. Your mission is just simply to shift your identity, to choose who you want to be at different stages in your life. Because at every single stage, an identity becomes limiting. Don't get me wrong, there is nothing wrong with being who you are right now. Because if you want to experience what you're experiencing, then being who you are is perfect. But if you want to experience something different, then the identity that you choose has to be in alignment with your desire. Is that making sense? What you want, you must be who you must be, who you need to be in order to attract what you want. Most people just think about what they want and they just start doing it. Oh, I want a business. Let me go and try this. Someone told me this is easy to do. Let me go and try starting an affiliate marketing business. Let me go and start a coaching business, or let me go and start a trading business. No. So a mistaken belief most people have is identity shifting is about becoming someone else. No, it is not. It is becoming more and more you. It is about becoming more and more authentically you. You cannot be someone else. You can only be yourself. There's different masks that we wear. There is no true me and not me. Sure, you have natural qualities, but identity shifting is about accentuating those qualities and becoming more of that and getting away from that socially conditioned self. Right now, we are not us. We're polluted by different ideas around us. You need to learn to become more and more you. That is the process of identity shifting. And that's the one thing that's made a profound shift in my life. I've tried many different techniques. I've tried many different meditations, many different visualizations, but please understand what's happening here. These meditations and visualizations are still me doing something. I'm trying to do something to get something. I'm not shifting my perception. If I keep viewing the world and myself the same way as I have, and I try to do something, my results will be the same, right? Because I'm not knocking down the big domino. This identity, your identity is the big domino. The identity conviction that you have is the biggest domino you can knock down that will naturally take care of all of these. So now let's do an exercise that'll be especially useful for you in this New Year's to become successful in 2023. This exercise here is something that we do with our clients in our paid program, but obviously we go into a lot more depth. So this exercise combines the three main things you need in order to attract, to manifest that particular sector of reality that you'd like to experience. And the fundamental step to doing that is gaining clarity. Most people think they know what they want. They don't know what they want. They think they know what they want. What we have to do is make sure of three things. Number one, getting intellectually clear. Everyone is good at this. Everyone's really good at this. When you think about what you want, immediately you become intellectual because society has taught us to function with mind, right? So we think, all right, I want that car, I want that house, I want that job, I want that passive income. Easy. I want that relationship. Easy. Okay, cool. Why? Why do you want it? Are you emotionally clear on why you want it? That's important. So step one, set goals on what you want. This is intellectual. And then we want to get emotionally clear. That is the why. Why do I want it? Every single successful person I talk to, they've always told me, hey, I knew my why. I was recently talking to one of my buddies, Bashar. I interviewed him for my podcast. And he was telling me he went from 6 figures to 8 figures. His business is currently doing around $2 million a month. What made the difference, Bashar? Knowing my why. He has a very deep mission that he wakes up to, a very powerful motivator, something that pulls him instead of him having to push himself every single day. So this why is what gets you emotional clarity. You must get clear emotionally, both on what you want to move away from, what pains you, and don't get me wrong, that's a good way to get started. That's how everyone gets started. You have to look at what you hate about your life, what you want to get away from. But you also have to know what you want to move towards and learn to shift your focus to that, right? So understand what you want to get away from, what is the deepest pain in your life first, and then flip that. What do you want instead? So what, why, and the last piece of this is understanding who you must become, the identity level clarity on who you must become in order to effortlessly live that. Which version of you? You can already picture it. If you picture all of the things that you want, you can already see a version of you living that. You just need to you just need to tap into that vision. The answer is already there. That parallel reality that you're thinking about, the very fact that you can visualize it and see it in your mind's eye suggests that that is a potential quantum event that just hasn't been experienced yet, because the viewpoint, the observer right now is too limited, right? We need to expand that viewpoint. Your infinite self has access to all of these possible parallel realities. The very fact that you can conceive of something means you can achieve it. right? You wouldn't have a desire if it weren't already yours. It's already yours, okay? So understand who. When you understand what, why, and who, then the how and when fall into place all by themselves. I'll give you an example of this. When I was in my corporate, like 9 to 5, I was doing a summer internship. I looked at my life and there was deep pain. I was like, shit, is this the next 40 years of my life? Is this what it's gonna look like? I don't want that. I don't wanna go to this shitty factory and do this engineering job. Well, what do I want instead? I want to have some sort of passive income that'll give me freedom, that I can replace my 9 to 5 job with. That's all I wanted. And obviously at first I didn't believe it was possible. I didn't. I was like, yeah, right, like this is gonna happen. But I was lucky enough to have friends and like a community who were already entrepreneurs my age, and I was like, I want that. I want what they're doing. They're traveling the world. They have an income to sustain themselves. I want that. And so the more I visualized and saw myself there, and the more I looked at who do I need to become to get that, and I tried different things. I combined that with action, like, oh, okay, try stock trading. Didn't resonate with it, didn't want that. Try e-commerce, didn't resonate with it, didn't want that. And then I had the idea of starting up a YouTube channel. And I did it for a while, and I didn't know where to go with the channel. I didn't know how to monetize it. But then 4 to 6 months later, someone reached out to me for coaching, and I was like, wait, this is it. This is exactly what I need to do. So it kind of auspiciously unfolded on its own. The more I held my conviction on what, why, and who, I knew what I wanted, and I still got clearer. Because clarity it's a never-ending journey. You get clearer and clearer every day. And I knew why I wanted it. There was a deep reason. I wanted that freedom. And I knew I had an idea of who I needed to become to achieve that 6 figures to replace my job. Slowly, the how and when showed itself. So if you're somewhere where you just have no idea, you need to work on getting clear. That's all. When you get clear, the path shows itself. And sometimes action is what gets you clearer, right? You have to have a starting point and then act on it to get clearer and clearer. So this is what I did. I suggest setting goals in every single area of your life. Usually there's 4 areas: wealth, health, relationships, and spirituality. Set a goal for the end of the year, at the end of 2023. What would you like? What would you like for wealth? Oh, I would like to have amassed $100,000, $1 million, whatever you want, right? And the key thing about goals is they have to lean over the edge without falling off. You can't set goals that are unrealistic, but at the same time, don't set goals that are too little. Set goals that make you think, oh my God, that's exciting. If that could happen, that would be phenomenal, right? Set goals like that. And then list why. List a reason why you want to achieve each of these goals. And that's what we're doing here. We're getting intellectual clarity on the goal that we want. This is what I want, that's what I want. Why? What would life look like if I would have it? What would I feel if I were to have it? The key here is focus on feeling. Feel something. When you associate yourself to the goal, feel something that moves you towards it. What is that feeling? And for most people, it begins with a pain, and also it gets grounded with a pleasure. The pain is what moves you, the pleasure is what grounds you. It's like a magnet. On one end of the magnet, you have a repellent, and one end you have something that attracts you. So you need to know both of them. List down a reason why for each of those goals. And finally, list down who you must become to achieve that. And what I mean by that is look at some characteristics of who you must become. If you were achieving your wealth goal, who are you being? In my life right now, I just set goals on how can I be a better video maker? How can I be a better business owner? How can I be a better husband? How can I be a better leader to my team? How can I be a better person, a better human being, right? Those are the kinds of goals that I set. And then I look at how can I improve as that identity every single day. And I believe that's the best way you can grow. I was listening to a podcast with Joe Rogan, and he was mentioning that's what he does now. He's like, yeah, I don't set any goals anymore. How can I just ask, how can I be a better podcaster? How can I be a better, gym goer? Someone who's in better shape, whatever you want to call that identity. Because please understand, we have an identity in every single area of our lives. When we communicate with our partner, we have an identity. When we conduct our business, we have an identity. It's like wearing a different hat or a different mask. So list some characteristics of who you must become in order to effortlessly achieve that, who you are being when you're experiencing that. That's important. Because when you know that, when you become one with that being, you're energetically resonating with that particular sector of reality that would manifest that, okay? And the last step to this is also very important because this conditioned mind believes in action. And this is a Japanese word called Kaizen. Car manufacturers in Japan came up with this. I can't remember who it was. I learned this in engineering when I was in college. But Kaizen translates to continuous improvement. So what activity can you do? What's one thing you can do to become that person? What's a continual improvement action that you can take? List one action down for each of them. So to grow in spirituality, I might list 5,000 minutes of meditation this year. Do 30 minutes of meditation a day. To grow in my business, I could say spend 1 hour every day researching, 1 hour every day applying, 1 hour every day doing a course or whatever it may be. List something that once you do it and you measure it, you can give yourself a mental check, a confirmation that you are becoming that person. Remember how I said when I went to the gym, I started to become a better person? Because I believed that I tied in my identity to going to the gym and taking that action. And as soon as I did that action, I looked at myself as becoming a better Quazi, becoming more attractive, becoming more confident, right? So there is a place for action. So list down one action you can take, something that's measurable and easy for you to keep track of, and do that for every single area. So what you could do is make a column. That's what I would recommend. You write down the goal, the category first, and then you write down the what, you write down the why, you write down the who, and you write down the Kaizen action. So just pause this video right now, do that action, and now we're gonna get into something much more important than everything that I just talked about. Very, very crucial. So what I wanna talk to you right now is what happens throughout this journey as you're becoming your ideal self, and why every single time your old self rears its ugly head, okay? The thoughts, the fears and doubts that come up and how to deal with them. This is a very, very crucial part of the journey, because once you learn how to deal with it, you won't fall back into the old self, okay? A lot of people struggle with this because they just don't know how to handle these old feelings. And the reason these old feelings and thoughts come up is because you have two selves at any given time. Who you're trying to be and who you've been conditioned to be. Who you're trying to be is very weak right now because you haven't spent some time building this character, but you have spent your whole life building this other character. So how do we defeat and dissolve this demon so we can strengthen this 2.0 self that we're becoming? We're gonna get to that right in a second. Now let's discuss what to do when this old self arises. And please pay attention to the very end of this, because I believe this is the most crucial part to the process. So, as I mentioned to you, as we go throughout this journey, our old selves show up. Most people don't know how to deal with this. The thoughts, fears, doubts, excuses, complaining, we're not even aware of it, that it's coming up, right? And it's only happening because we've, for years, conditioned ourselves to be a certain way, and now we're moving out of the comfort zone. When you're being challenged, when the fears and doubts are coming up, you know you're doing something right. In my life, I've always focused on, hey, how can I be the most uncomfortable? What can I do uncomfortable today? And we've done this over 1,000 clients, and every single one of them has shown results and improvement because they focused on, how can I be uncomfortable today? How can I grow today? Because remember this, when are you the most comfortable in your life? When you're dead, when you're not feeling anything, when you're sitting on a couch and you're eating junk food and you're numbing your senses, binge watching television. That's when you feel the most numb to life, and that's pretty much what's happening with society right now. Everyone's just numbing themselves. They don't know how to feel anymore. They can't sit in silence in a room for more than 5 minutes, right? We're the most comfortable when we're dead. That's the truth. And when you're the most alive, you're actually the most uncomfortable, right? Being alive is uncomfortable. You're in pain all the time. Your cells are dying and regrowing and life is happening. That's when change happens. When are you the most fulfilled in your life? When you're comfortable and you're not making any progress? Or when you do something hard and at the end of the day, you can say to yourself, wow, I'm so glad I did that. This is exactly what's happening with your identity. So if you feel feelings of challenge, fear, discomfort, you know you're on the right path. You know something good is coming. You know you're going to grow out of it. Most people don't understand how to deal with that. But to fully understand this, we have to go beyond this whole, we have to take basically a step back on how identities form in the first place. There's basically, 3 main factors here. There's this self that we have. Let's call this the infinite self or pure awareness. When we function as our infinite selves, and pure awareness, we're actually beyond all identity. We're not identifying with anything. When identity is there, there is an ego, which is the second part to this, right? There is awareness, there is mind or consciousness, and there is the relationship between the two. In order to function in this material world, we need an identity. That is just how it works. We need an ego. But if we don't know how to take a step back from this ego, that's when we fall into trouble, because this is all we know. If we can take a step back from the ego, for example, if you take the instance of an identity as wearing a mask, what happens when we take off the mask? That's when we function as awareness, our infinite selves, enlightenment. In ancient yogic philosophy, they say that at first there was nothing. Nothing evolved into awareness. It started to become aware of itself. Awareness evolved into consciousness or mind, which is the ego. And mind is what created body. You can literally see this when you see people using the power of the mind to push their bodies past. Like, if you're running a very large distance, like let's say, 2 miles, I don't run. And past a mile, you start to get tired. You can use your mind to push your body. And that's what people like David Goggins has done. His kneecaps have literally been completely destroyed. They've become bone. The cartilage has become bone. And he's in a lot of pain, yet he runs 200 miles a week, right? He does all of this with the power of the mind. His body is still functioning by the grace of the mind. So the mind has lots of power to influence and create, literally recreate the body. Now, what governs the existence of mind is awareness. When awareness no longer identifies with mind, mind ceases to function. Thought happens, but it's no longer in your awareness, right? So when we take the mask off, we are functioning as pure awareness. You must first learn how to function as pure awareness before you can choose an identity. You have to learn how to ditch and, get rid of your old identity before you can take on a new one. If the hold of your old identity is too strong, it'll be difficult to shift into a new one. So this is where this process comes in. What we have to do is learn to observe ourselves and look at ourselves in pure awareness and zero judgment. When we judge something, we're automatically taking on a position, a viewpoint, right? And you also have to understand that every point in our lives, at every single point, an identity will eventually become a limitation. I'll give you a concrete example myself. When I started to make some money in my business, I got comfortable and I became this 20K a month version of myself, right? When I became that version of myself, I didn't want to push myself. I started to get lazy and I started to do the same thing over and over again. And because of that, I'd stagnated and I didn't grow. And so I did enough to make 6 figures instead of growing into that 7-figure version of myself. My identity at 6 figures had become so strong, it was difficult for me to shift into that 7-figure identity. And so I got comfortable. And when I got comfortable, my results that I was experiencing were lackluster until, I had a wake-up call and I realized this. And that's when I had to get uncomfortable again in order to grow. So what you're experiencing right now in your life is all a result of you staying in your comfort zone, and that identity that you've crafted has now become a limitation. So now when I want to go from making 7 figures to 8 figures, I have to choose the 8-figure identity and get uncomfortable in my 7-figure identity and challenge myself to push past the limits of my comfort zone. Do you understand this? Like every identity itself, every belief, every thought will eventually become a limitation for you. But in order to ditch those old beliefs and thoughts, you have to be open-minded, aka awareness. You have to become aware of your patterns and observe them without judgment. So whenever these old thoughts and fears come up, what most people do is they attribute attention to them, either positive or negative. Please understand this. Positive and negative attention has a polarity. When I feel good about a thought and I say this thought is good, I'm attracting it. When I feel bad about a thought and I say this thought is bad, I'm also attracting it. When whatever we fear, we get more of. Whatever we love, we get more of. To dissolve the negative feelings that we don't want, all we have to do is give it neutral observation. Just simply watch it and let it be. That's when we turn awareness in on itself and stop identifying with mind. And that's the mission here. The more you can learn to function as awareness, the more you can consciously choose the identity that you want. And the best time to do this is just simply look at whenever thoughts and fears arise that are not desired, that you didn't want. You don't have to give it any attention at all. Simply watch them. And when we do that, when we watch something in neutral or in awareness, guess what happens? The wave function collapses. It has no power over us. And that's the most crucial part to this. You have to, throughout your day, throughout your life, learn to function as awareness so that you can consciously choose who you want to be. So you can consciously choose that mind, that identity, that ego you want to function as. So the three main factors were the infinite self-awareness, the ego self-identity, and the relationship between the two. You have to choose when you want to get involved, and you have to choose when you want to withdraw. As long as you have that choice, you're in control. When you become reactive and you lose that choice, that's when you'll get tested. Life will test you. Life will give you things you don't want to see. And that's when we actually do grow. When we get humbled by all of the challenges in life. Okay? So the key here is watch with neutral observation anytime undesired thoughts and feelings arise. So now, what I want you to do is go to the pinned comments down in the description below or in the comments section and click on it to access our exclusive Identity Shifting Bootcamp. It's a 5-video series which also includes a meditation to help you shift into that ideal self that we actually use with our paid clients of our paid program, okay? I want you to get access to it so that you can summarize everything that we've learned here and also access much more that'll get you started on this journey to identity shifting. All you need to do is just click on that link and you'll get immediate access to it. I'll see you right there, right now. Thanks.